In this tale, we witness how a young servant begins working in the home of a wealthy man and eventually becomes entangled in a secret affair with the man's wife. But once the husband uncovers the betrayal, events spiral into a shocking direction. What unfolds among the trio, and who the woman chooses to be involved with afterward, will be disclosed by the conclusion. The film begins with a rich businessman named Will, living in a grand mansion alongside his wife, Ramona. Will possessed enormous wealth and had even employed police officers as part of his personal security. On that particular day, a new servant was expected to arrive. At the same time, the servant Simu was heading toward Will's residence accompanied by Officer James and two fellow officers. Simu appeared tense since it was his first time serving anyone. James drove the car while casually talking with his colleague. Meanwhile, the woman seated beside Simu, Mona, started flirting with him. Without drawing attention, she rested her hand on his arm, attempting to ease his nerves and provoke a reaction. Yet Simu was far too anxious to respond. Mona smirked and teasingly brushed her hand against him, amused by his discomfort, while James and his partner up front remained completely unaware. Eventually, they reached Will's impressive estate. The moment Simu stepped out, his anxiety only intensified. The group entered the house and James welcomed Will with a friendly embrace. In truth, Will had requested that James bring Simu because he needed a dependable servant. Will himself had once served in the military and had hired James as his trusted bodyguard. When Will laid eyes on Simu, he immediately took a liking to him. James reassured Will that Simu was honest and diligent, someone who would never disappoint. Satisfied with James's efforts, Will chose to reward him and called for Ramona to bring the payment. Ramona was youthful and strikingly attractive, and her beauty instantly captivated Simu. Will was in high spirits that evening. He had invited guests over and asked James to return later for a celebration. That night, the mansion echoed with laughter as the gathering began. Couples enjoyed themselves, but lonely Simu had no companion, so his gaze repeatedly drifted toward Ramona. Watching his friends amuse themselves, they began playing a playful game of hide-and-seek throughout the house. Initially entertained, Will's mood shifted when he accidentally hurt himself slightly. Losing his temper, he shouted at Ramona and smashed a glass in frustration. Alarmed, Ramona hurried to soothe him, speaking gently and apologizing until he calmed down. As she seduced him, the tension between them grew intense. At that exact moment, Simu happened to pass by and overheard them. Startled, Ramona quickly covered herself in embarrassment while Will spotted Simu outside and angrily yelled at him. From outside, Simu could still hear Ramona's cries and felt a deep sadness. Soon after, the housemaid Sophia approached him and said, "Ignore it. They act like this nearly every night. Concentrate on your duties, earn your wages, and build your future." Meanwhile upstairs, matters took an unexpected turn. Will drank excessively and ended up vomiting on Ramona before passing out, leaving her disgusted and resentful. Later, Ramona descended the stairs and instructed Sophia to clean Will's clothes. As she walked away, her eyes locked with Simu's. They exchanged no words, yet their expressions spoke volumes. The following morning, Simu cleaned the house while Ramona and Will relaxed outside under the sun. Ramona could not stop watching Simu, whereas Will chatted on the phone, oblivious to his wife's secret glances. Though she pretended to read, her attention constantly returned to him. Simu, however, kept his head down, too frightened to meet her gaze. Shortly afterward, Sophia served Will some juice. Once he finished, Will informed Ramona he was going to shower. Ramona had been anticipating that moment. After he left, she attempted to speak with Simu but found herself unable to form the words. Inside the bathroom, Sophia entered with a towel. Will gave her a look, and she understood instantly, stepping inside quietly. Will seemed to find Sophia more thrilling than his own wife. Later, dressed for an important meeting, he departed with James. With him gone, Ramona relaxed and began drinking. Sophia later asked if she required anything, but Ramona responded coldly and walked away, secretly suspecting an affair. Seeking solitude, Ramona climbed to the terrace with another drink and saw Simu swimming below. The sight stirred her emotions. Though reluctant to admit it, she was falling for him. She grabbed yet another drink and approached the pool. Startled by her presence, Simu quickly exited the water, but Ramona stopped him and invited him to sit. Hesitant and shirtless, he felt embarrassed. Smiling gently, she urged him to relax. Their conversation began softly. "Don't you find me attractive?" she asked. Nervously he replied, "You're beautiful, ma'am, but I'm only a servant." Sighing, she confessed she had married the older man for wealth and came from a modest background like his. Her honesty eased him, and for the first time he saw her as more than an employer. She offered him a cigarette, which he accepted, and they smoked together in meaningful silence. The next morning, Will returned carrying a bag stuffed with cash, which he secured in a closet. When Ramona offered breakfast, he declined and asked about Simu instead. Soon the two men went fishing on the lake. As they paused in the still water, Will questioned Simu's quiet nature. Simu revealed he had never known his father and had recently lost his mother, hoping only to save money for education. Hearing this, Will softened and promised to support his studies if he remained loyal. Surprised, Simu glimpsed a kinder side of him and shared his dream of building a family someday. After returning, Simu massaged Will's tired legs while Ramona sat nearby, exchanging charged glances with him. A sudden phone call interrupted them. Later that evening, Ramona returned from the market with James and subtly brushed her hand against Simu's while speaking with Will. That night, Simu discovered a beautifully wrapped birthday gift from Ramona waiting on his bed, filling him with quiet joy before sleep. The next day in the garden, Ramona signaled discreetly to ask if he liked it. His shy nod confirmed it, though Sophia noticed their silent communication and grew suspicious. Later, Ramona dreamed of Simu entering her room, only for his face to transform into Will's, terrifying her awake. When she went downstairs, she found Will openly flirting with Sophia at the table. Heartbroken, she stood motionless as Sophia slipped away. Feeling betrayed, Ramona wandered to the lake and sat alone until Simu approached, offering her a handkerchief embroidered with her name. The thoughtful gesture brought her comfort. As he shared his hardships, she leaned into him, finding solace together. That night, Will hosted another wild party. After drinking heavily, he grew reckless and demanded Ramona join in the indecent festivities. When she refused, he angrily shoved her before everyone. Simu watched helplessly, burning with rage yet unable to interfere. Later, Sophia informed him that Will wanted to see him. Entering the room, Simu found Will drunk and holding a gun. Slurring his words, Will demanded to know whether Simu had been involved with Ramona. Frozen and silent, Simu stood there as Will's fury intensified. Then, seeking to humiliate her, Will dragged Ramona in front of Simu and tried to assert dominance, believing she had embarrassed him earlier and determined to punish her for it. When everything was over, Will walked out of the room without saying a single word, leaving Ramona sitting there in tears. Simu remained motionless, pain and helplessness filling his eyes as he witnessed it all. Slowly, he stepped toward Ramona and collapsed beside her, crying as well. The following morning, Will prepared to leave for work. At the gate, he encountered Simu and, acting generous, handed him some cash as a reward for his service. In reality, he only wanted to measure Simu's loyalty and see if any bitterness showed on his face. But Simu passed the trial, remaining polite and humble. That evening, Simu was strolling near the lake when Ramona approached him. With a soft laugh, she playfully splashed water at him, and before long, their light-hearted teasing deepened into something more intimate. By the peaceful lakeside, they finally surrendered to their emotions and became lovers. For Simu, it was his first true experience of love, and for Ramona, it was the joy she had long been deprived of. After that night, whenever Will was away, the two would secretly meet again. Even Sophia eventually discovered their relationship, yet she kept quiet because she cared for Ramona and wanted her happiness, even if it meant protecting their secret. One day, while they were together, Simu gently suggested, "Let's escape from here. I've saved enough. We can begin again somewhere else." But Ramona shook her head in fear. "If I leave, Will chase us and destroy us. You have no idea who he truly is." She trembled because she understood Will's dark side better than anyone. A few days later, during another secret meeting, Will unexpectedly returned home earlier than usual. Sophia spotted his car and hurried to warn them. "Ma'am, he's back." Hurry, she whispered anxiously. Outside, Will waited with James, growing irritated as the front door remained locked. Sophia had secured it to buy time. Ramona rushed into the bathroom while Simu slipped out through the back window just seconds before Will entered. "Where is everyone?" Will shouted, pacing through the house. Not finding Ramona downstairs, he went upstairs. In the bedroom, he saw Sophia. "Where's my wife?" he demanded. Too frightened, she stayed silent. Will scanned the room and pushed open the bathroom door, finding Ramona pretending to shower. "You're home already," she said casually with a forced smile. His anger eased temporarily as he stepped closer. Meanwhile, Simu quietly escaped from behind the house. James noticed but chose not to speak. That night, Simu sat outside his room, deep in thought, sadness evident on his face. Sophia joined him, and he offered her a cigarette. After a moment of silence, Simu asked why she continued working for someone like Will. With a heavy sigh, Sophia revealed her daughter was gravely ill and required costly treatment. She needed the job to survive. Simu understood, knowing Will had taken advantage of her situation. Bitterly, she admitted that desperation sometimes forces people to do what they despise. Days later, Will hosted yet another gathering. His usual circle of friends returned, drinking and entertaining themselves. James sat alone while the others teased him, but he ignored them. Everyone became intoxicated, and Simu stood nearby observing quietly. Soon, the guests proposed a new game. Will initially refused, aware Ramona would object, but after constant pressure, he demanded that Ramona participate with James in front of everyone. James declined immediately, yet Ramona, furious, slapped Will across the face before the crowd. Humiliated and drunk, Will struck her back. Seeing her hurt, Simu rushed forward and attacked Will in anger, but the guests restrained him and dragged him away. Enraged, Will ordered James to bring Simu before him. When Simu was forced in front of him, Will attempted revenge but was too intoxicated and ended up vomiting again. Chaos filled the room. In anger, Will told James he never wished to see Simu again. Simu pleaded desperately, begging James for mercy. Moved by pity, James told him to leave the town and never return. The next morning, Will apologized to Ramona. Distrustful of everyone, he even dismissed Sophia from her position. As Sophia departed, she and Ramona exchanged a silent, sorrowful farewell. Sophia was devastated, still lacking enough funds for her daughter's care. Later, she met Simu once more. When he asked about her plans, she admitted she had no certainty about her future. It was their final meeting. Before parting, Sophia handed Simu a package from Ramona containing money and a key to the mansion. That night, Simu used the key to enter the house quietly. Inside, he overheard Will and Ramona speaking. Silently, Simu picked up a knife. As he moved toward Will, Will noticed him and fought back. Before Will could overpower him, Ramona stabbed Will repeatedly, finally freeing herself. Afterward, she gathered documents, collected the cash, and prepared to flee. Simu stood devastated, unsure whether their actions were justified. Ramona assured him they would start anew far away and escaped with him by boat. By morning, when they reached the shore, Officer James awaited them. Shocked, Simu watched as Ramona calmly walked toward James. Everything had been planned from the beginning. Ramona and James had secretly conspired to eliminate Will and claim his fortune. James sparing Simu earlier had been part of their scheme. In the end, Ramona confessed to the dying Simu that she had done everything for wealth, ensuring Will's estate would belong entirely to her. The property was transferred into her name. Sophia eventually returned to her ordinary life. Ramona resumed working, now driven by one of James's men. In the closing scene, Ramona remembers Simu and breaks down in tears, regretting her betrayal. Clutching his embroidered handkerchief, she sobs uncontrollably as the story comes to an end.